Well, many of you know that I live in Richmond. This past week, the mayor and the superintendent of the RCMP appeared in the Richmond newspaper together, pleading for citizens to speak up and act when they witness acts of racism. This came on the heels of a couple of recent incidents. A week ago, a man appearing to be of Asian ethnicity sprayed racist graffiti in Chinese over a poster of a Black male model. And in another incident just last weekend, a white person targeted a Stop Asian Hate rally on Sunday, yelling obscenities at those rallying peacefully in support of Asian members of our community. At the same time as I was noticing that article in the paper, my news feed online started filling up with images of and reactions to the old growth tree being transported down the highway on a logging truck, just as news of the protests at Fairy Creek began to hit headlines. And then the devastating news from Kamloops. Surreal confirmation of what had been whispered for decades by communities already dealing with generations of trauma from residential schools. Now, although the service had been formatted already, the theme set as Trinity Sunday, I have to tell you, when it came time to sit and put pen to paper, I really had nothing left in the tank for the Trinity. I'd already done some research and I planned to talk about the triquetra symbol, the symbol that you see in your bulletin this morning. And I can still tell you about that, about how the term is used in archaeology for any figure consisting of 3 arcs, and how such symbols become frequent from about the 4th century BC. They appear on ancient Persian pottery. I can tell you about how the symbol has been found on rune stones in Northern Europe and on early Germanic coins, and how it eventually made its way into Christian iconography, the symbol representing the concept of the Trinity, and how the source of this can be found in the art coming out of the Irish monastic tradition of Celtic Christianity. I can also tell you something interesting, which I hadn't known before, which is that the triquetra symbol has also been used in Japan for a concept called musubi mitsugashiwa. When I looked it up, the symbol looks exactly the same as the Celtic version. I found out that musubi is an ancient Buddhist concept and represents, interestingly enough, the mysterious power of all creation and growth. Of course, in our faith tradition, the Trinity is used to represent the ways we experience the nature of God and God's creating, redeeming, and sustaining activities in our world. Trinitarian doctrine talks about God as 3 in 1, as you heard in the hymn we just sang a few moments earlier, and 1 in 3. And the emphasis is on unity. In a recent daily email, Christian contemplative and author Richard Rohr talks about the writings of Buddhist monk and peace activist Thich Nhat Hanh. In particular, his meditation on a piece of paper, which Hanh uses to talk about the mysterious interconnection between all things. I'll read for you this meditation. Hanh writes, "If you are a poet, you will see clearly that there is a cloud floating in this sheet of paper." If you need to, you can look at a piece of paper as I'm reading. "Without a cloud, there will be no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow. And without trees, we cannot make paper. The cloud is essential for the paper to exist. If the cloud is not here, the sheet of paper cannot be here either. So we can say that the cloud and the paper inter-are. Interbeing is a word that is not in the dictionary yet, he writes. But if we combine the prefix inter with the verb to be, we have a new verb, interbe. If we look into this sheet of paper even more deeply, we can see the sunshine in it. Without sunshine, the forest cannot grow. In fact, nothing can grow without sunshine. And so we know that the sunshine is also in this sheet of paper. The paper and the sunshine inter-are. And if we continue to look, we can see the logger who cut the tree and brought it to the mill to be transformed into paper. And we see wheat. We know that the logger cannot exist without their daily bread. And therefore the wheat that became the bread is also in this sheet of paper. The logger's father and mother are in it too. And when we look in this way, then we can see that without all of these things, this sheet of paper cannot exist. Looking even more deeply, he says, we can see ourselves in this paper too. This is not difficult to see, because when we look at a sheet of paper, it is part of our perception. Your mind is in here, and mine also. So we can say that everything is in here with this sheet of paper. We cannot point out, in fact, one thing that is not here. Time, space, the earth, the rain, the minerals in the soil, the sunshine, the cloud, the river, the heat. Everything coexists within this sheet of paper. And that is why he says, I think the word interbe should be in the dictionary. To be is to interbe. We cannot just be by ourselves alone. We have to interbe with every other thing. This sheet of paper is because everything else is. And finally, he says, suppose we try to return one of the elements to its source. Without non-paper elements like mind, logger, sunshine, and so on, there will be no paper. As thin as this sheet of paper is, it contains everything in the universe in it. I'm not sure why this connected with me so deeply this week. So often I found myself preaching about our interconnectedness with each other and with creation and the natural world. But this concept of interbeing, it feels like it takes it even deeper. And it could be a good way for us to be thinking about our concept of Trinity as the mysterious interbeing of Creator, Christ, and Spirit. The reality and energy behind all creation, all growth, all renewal, all transformation. And then we could talk about how we share in this interbeing with God, the three-in-one. And if we do, I think there's a profound implication here. If the three-in-one are essentially the three dimensions of God's creating and renewing and loving activity in the world, then as heirs, as Paul would call us, or through our interbeing, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, we too have access to those three dimensions within us as well. And we can trust that as we live and move forward in faith, these dimensions are at work in us and through us as in the whole world. I said at the outset of this reflection that I felt like I had nothing in the tank this year for the Trinity. I guess, given what I've just said in the past few minutes, that isn't entirely true. But I think what I was feeling was this, that doctrine and theology are only useful and meaningful if they truly help us name and understand reality, and help us find our way towards individual and collective healing and resilience and hope. Even as in this week alone, we grapple with a new revelation of the sinful and painful truth of our colonial history and its far-reaching impact. Even as we confront ongoing racism and hate, even as we continue to struggle with the irreversible and ongoing damage we are causing to God's world, still, as Paul wants to affirm for us, still we have hope. Hope in something mysterious and often unseen. Hope in a God, three in one, an energetic relationship of interbeing in which we participate, a unity that we dwell within, which means we cannot ignore the plight of the other because they are a part of us. We interbe. We cannot ignore the plight of the earth because we are one with her and all God's creatures. Some years I've enjoyed finding and putting out there the different formulations people have come up with for the Trinity, but there's one that's coming to the forefront for me right now, and that is that image of composer, sacred music, and singer. God in us continues to urge us to improvise new variations on that divine theme of a world and a reign of compassion and justice. Christ in us helps us embody the music of divine love, while the Spirit breathes a song of reconciliation and renewal and praise and joy in our unity onto our lips. And as we practice our interbeing with God and each other, we lean into our oneness within diversity, our oneness with the old growth trees and with the communities grieving the loss of their children. And we lean into the hope that our trust in a relational, creating, redeeming, and sustaining God can give us in such a turbulent time as this. May it be so. Amen.